Hi, everyone. Welcome back to your Foundations program. It's Geraldine Power here. And today we are talking about the law of telling a story that inspires. And this is our first time at the time of this recording this Foundations course. So I will likely make a refinement for the next round and change this to the foundational law of telling a story that connects and inspires. Because what we're going to touch on today is that connection is really vital to building relationships, to helping people to see why they've been guided to your essential oil classes, your one-on-ones, your webinars, your blogs, however you are getting out there and sharing the oils. If we're not making a connection with someone, you're going to struggle. If you're not, I should say, making a connection with someone, you're going to struggle. So we're going to talk about that today. So I just want to say this before we get started. We are so blessed in doTERRA because the oils sell themselves. There is a reason that doTERRA is the #1 essential oil company. Okay, you are starting to see, and you'll likely continue to see over the next 6 months, a lot of companies add essential oils to their product line. I mean, you can go to the gas station today, it's kind of embarrassing, and see essential oils on the store shelf. Obviously, this is actually, a type of business practice that has worked for a while. This idea of looking at, as a business owner, okay, what do consumers want? And then tapping into that. But because the world is moving into a higher state of consciousness, it's going to start to backfire for companies that are solely profit driven. Okay. So when you see, your typical department store or grocery store, who, let's say they have a certain clientele and a certain, just a certain way of being in their sales and marketing and promotion process, all of a sudden add in totally random stuff, it starts to tell a story about where their headspace is and where their heart is. And it shows that they just want to, make a sale. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money in business. I mean, we need to clean up our belief systems around that. We need to believe it's okay to live in abundance, because there's so many beautiful things we can do with our abundance in terms of what the world needs. But what I'm essentially saying is that companies and people who are trying to just latch on to essential oils or latch on to whatever it is to make a profit, in the next 5 to 10 years, that's going to backfire. Because people who come from a place of purpose first are starting to take over. And we're starting to see through companies like doTERRA that when you come from purpose and vision and innovation and pioneering in a way that the world desperately needs for true health and healing, abundance naturally follows. And that's what doTERRA is up to. Your people that attend your one-to-ones, your classes, your webinars, they're coming with pain points, struggles, or interests. It's not always a pain point. It's not always that they have cancer or their kid can't sleep. Sometimes their interest is piqued and they want to grow into deeper vitality. Maybe they're already a super healthy person, right? They're coming with an interest or some sort of a pain point, and the essential oils have a solution. And we are so blessed that doTERRA operates the way that they do with their sourcing practice, their commitment to their vision. That, I'm going to say something really powerful for you guys right now, okay? Based on this principle, you guys are sitting on a gold mine. You have the capacity to create whatever you want to create here. I know some of you, just want to pay for your LRP order, and that's cool. Some of you want to supplement and replace your income. Cool. If you want to supplement and replace your income, you're sitting on $1 million business right now. $1 million business, because look at the product you're sitting on. Look at what the world is moving into in terms of what they need. We're starting to crack open to the fact that the traditional medical system is broken. It's doctors that are ego-driven. It's run by the pharmaceutical company that yes, we need certain drugs. When I was going in for a C-section, give me all the drugs, right? If I wake up with a bladder infection that's really, really bad and my oils don't work, yes, give me an antibiotic. We need that. I'm grateful for that. But we know, I mean, you have to be blind to not understand what the drug companies are doing today. They are not only poisoning people by just creating mass drugs, right? Vaccinations for everything and anything. It's a money grab. It's a complete and total money grab. There is no deeper connection to actually wanting true health and healing. Okay? And so companies like doTERRA, the spiritually charged energy, but behind a company like doTERRA with a true heart for healing is so big, and the energy of it is so huge. And the need, because people are waking up every day and they're realizing, oh my gosh, I have been taking this drug for 20 years. My dad, just a quick story on this. And it's never to shame anyone or to shame a certain doctor. Like, again, I'm super grateful for our medical system. And I know not all doctors and physicians are like this, but the truth needs to be told. And so my dad came to me earlier last year, and he said, Jerry, I've had this chronic headache for a few months. I haven't really told anyone, but I've been suffering in pain. And he had to take a disability leave from work. And he basically was going to his doctor, and they just kept prescribing another pill. And I said, have they taken blood work? Are they asking what you're eating? Are they asking about your stress levels? And he said, no. And I said, that is so wrong. There is something so wrong with that system, because the side effects of medication itself can cause a headache. So I said, Daddy, what type of drug are you on? And he told me he was on a drug. It's called a statin drug for high blood pressure. And I said, when was the last time they checked your blood pressure? Do you still need to be on this statin drug? Because I don't know if you guys follow, some of the popular sort of rising stars in the functional medicine space, or in the space of medical doctors who are now branding themselves online, right? And starting to talk about, here's when you would need medication, but here's where you want to look at side effects. They're starting to speak about it in a more conscious way, right? So I follow a lot of these doctors, Dr. Perlmutter, he wrote Grain Brain, Dr. Mercola, Dr. Mark Hyman. These are a couple online. You guys might even want to follow just to stay up to date on this conversation. You might even weave this into your oil classes. So anyways, I read a few articles from these doctors saying really beware if you're on these statin drugs, because they're causing such horrible side effects in the brain, causing headaches. And so I sent my dad these articles, and he brought them into his doctor. And his doctor said, who showed you this? And he said, my daughter. And they said, oh, what a smart daughter you have. I didn't know this. And it really pissed me off. It really made me go, why is our medical system, why are they not? And again, it's not everyone, but for some of them, it's really embarrassing. They're not up to date on this information. They're learning in medical school what the drug companies are teaching them, right? And so these doctors basically took the advice that I gave to my dad in an article from another doctor who's more conscious and in the know, and basically said, okay, yeah, let's recheck your blood pressure and cholesterol and all these things. So sure enough, they hadn't checked this in 4 years. They hadn't checked my dad in 4 years. They had been prescribing him medication for 4 years, and he doesn't know. And this is the problem. Many people go to doctors just thinking they're the gods or the end all be all. And my dad had no idea, was just taking pill after pill after pill without even being checked. How bad is that, you guys? That is the reality. That is the reality of our healthcare system. So he comes off these medications, and the ones that he doesn't have to be on, and he slowly starts to feel better, and he's looking at, diet. I referred him to a nutritionist, and he's using essential oils, and to see him come to healing, I'm so proud of what we are doing. And I wanted to share that story with you because the oils work, they're needed. You are sitting on $1 million business. If you are still dealing with belief systems like, oh, is this compromising who I am as a blank? Enter your profession, whether you're like an RMT or a nutritionist or a stay-at-home mom, whatever. If you still have fears about network marketing and doTERRA, you have to understand that there is a resistance inside of you to tapping into the deeper movement that we're actually creating. Because if you really felt into what we're doing, all of those fears that you have would completely melt away, and you'll be able to step into your power and your leadership here with quicker momentum. Because and Cheryl talks about this on the law of choosing courage. But I'm not going to go too deep into that. I know this is a foundational program, but I just wanted to open with that before we talk about telling your story, because when I teach you how to tell your story, I'm going to teach you this, exactly what it says on the slide here. The oils sell themselves. This movement sells itself. What we're doing is so powerful. So, that's step one. And if you're still stuck there, you got to look at that. Because step two is looking at, okay, how do I sell myself? How do I sell me standing at the front of the room? Because here's the truth about that. I'm going to go to the next slide here. Check this out. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. So this is why, if you have fears around this, around the oils, around, network marketing, blah, 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 well, they're going to feel that, and they're not really going to know, like, and trust you, because they're going to be like, this person doesn't even believe in what they're doing, right? So obviously you need to get that together. But the oils sell themselves. People will come to your class, like I said, with pain points, with interests, and they're ready to buy. So it's just up to you in terms of how you deliver the information. And Cheryl talked about this in presenting and teaching the class and connecting and keeping it simple. And you share the top 10 oils, and all of that you can learn from watching videos. You can replicate that. So the oils sell themselves. People are ready to buy. So the question is, how do you build trust then with the people at your classes? How do you build trust in such a short time? Because you likely have an hour with them, maybe 2 hours by the time you show up, connect, set up, teach the class, connect a little bit later, and then leave. So you maybe have 2 hours. The oils sell themselves when you describe it and you share the vision. But how do you build trust in terms of you? If people buy from people they know, like, and trust, how do you do that? Easy. You tell your story. We all have a story to tell. This is the number one way you build trust. So let's go through this. Keys to an inspiring story. Okay. You want to tell the story that you're really here to tell. When people come to me and they say that they want to either supplement or replace their income in doTERRA, at some point of their business, sometimes this happens before elite rank, sometimes after, I have to have the conversation with them around, being amateur versus professional. So this relates to telling your story. A professional will tell the story they're really here to tell. They'll talk about what I just talked about. My dad was struggling and getting headaches, and this happened, and I realized our medical system is broken, and I wanted to turn to essential oils, and I wanted to help him not rely so much on pharmaceutical drugs, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Or maybe you had a really chaotic incident in your life, or you lost a job, or you had a certain health issue, and then an essential oil landed in your lap, and whatever. But the amateur version of that is like, oh, I wanted to get healthy. Well, peel back the layers of the onion there. Because again, let's say you show up to a class or an event and someone's at the front of the room and they say to you, hey, like I'm okay, we're going to start this essential oil class, but first I just want to tell you my story really quick. I had this goal of getting healthier for myself and my family, so I started using the oils, and they've been really great, like really great. And da 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 da, and they start barfing off the science and this and that. Okay, cool, but you haven't really made a connection, because telling like the real story you're here to tell is what builds connection and vulnerability. Builds connection and inspires through vulnerability. And oftentimes people don't want to shift from that amateur space to the professional space because they feel like, well, I'm in the mess still. Like maybe your story is you were in a deep depression and you started using the citrus oils, and that helped pull you out along with practicing yoga and meditation. Let's say that's your story. But let's say at times you still dip and you still feel anxious, or you still have bouts of depression. So you feel like, who am I to tell that story if I'm still in it? Well, I'm here to tell you that the professional will tell it because they know that telling a story is what heals. They understand this foundational skill. They're open to understanding this. They're open to taking on the coaching from people that have gone before them, and they just do it. And they flip it in a way where they say something like, I'm still in this process. I'm still feeling anxious. And at times I dip back into that depression, but guess what? I'm committed to my path. I'm committed to my healing journey. I'm committed to using my oils, and I'm committed to XYZ. And I'm committed to inspiring other people along the way. Boom. Notice how that creates a connection as opposed to, I wasn't feeling very good, so I wanted to try the oils. Okay. The last thing I'll say here with respect to tell the story you're really here to tell is you might be thinking, well, I don't really have some crazy story where I got cancer or I was depressed or my dad had chronic headaches like yours, Geraldine, things were pretty good in my life, and I just wanted to try something new, and I just wanted to learn how to supplement my income. Cool. Tell that. Own it. Like if that's the story you're here to tell, don't hide that, because sometimes we think our story is not enough and we think that we need to downplay it. So if that's your story, own it. You might say, I've been bored lately, and maybe some of you can relate. I've been bored and I've wanted a side passion project, and these oils came into my lap. And so I decided to take that leap of faith. I really had no idea why I was guided to it, but I recognize that I've just been bored. Like however you say that. Okay. So this is about owning the story you're really here to tell. What do the people in the room need to hear from you? So if you kind of feel stuck around, how do I piece this together? Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to script it out. I'm not going to tell you like an 8-step process. Sometimes I see leaders doing this, and I personally don't agree with this. Because if you try to teach people like, here's 9 steps to telling an inspiring story. Step 1, you're going to talk about this. Step 2, this. I've seen people try to follow this process, and it's awkward. And it's almost like the people in the room can tell you're trying to script it. So I wrote here, be real, vulnerable, and unscripted. However, if you find like you have a tendency to get in your head, I want you to think of it like a 3-part process. So this just keeps it easier. Like, this is what happened. Okay, this is what happened. My dad started getting chronic headaches, or I was feeling bored in my life as a mom, and I needed a part-time passion project, or my depression started to get really bad. And then part 2 is, this is what I did about it. I started seeking out solutions. Whatever. Step 3, here's the key to being a professional. An amateur, listen up, an amateur will be too afraid to say this. Professionals will turn it into a mission for other people. Okay. So if you say, my depression was really bad, and so what I did about it was I started integrating essential oils, and now it's my mission to help other women who are feeling anxious or depressed, and to inspire them to see that they have solutions. Boom. That I'm not going to go into a story about why you need to say that. This program is also here to teach you to be coachable and open to what successful people before you have done. Some people will choose to stay in the amateur space here and not do this. That's your choice. Professionals will always turn it into a mission for other people. Okay? And then lastly, keys to an inspiring story. You want to let your story land. We use that word like let it land. Notice how I'm going slow and I'm pausing, or I'm accentuating a certain word. So this is something you can start to work on. And I've put a little link here for a 4-minute video from a beautiful woman who is a professional speaking coach. And click on it, watch it, okay? She talks about this idea of how to make your story land. So you can watch that for homework. Other keys to an inspiring story is, look people in the eye and smile. Connect with them. Sometimes when we're connecting, being vulnerable and telling the story we're really here to tell, we have a tendency to want to look at the ceiling or look away. And you're going to feel this. It's going to feel uncomfortable. The amateur will want to look away. The amateur will want to deflect and not tell the story or like all of it. The professional will tell the real story and look at people and build that connection, okay? And then lastly, again, as a recap, you want to turn your story into a mission to serve other people. So for homework, I just want you to journal, because this is a bit more of an advanced skill. Like you can get to elite. This is a foundational program to help you grow to elite and to set the stage for premier rank. You can do that without having to tell your story. You can do that, but you're going to get stuck after that if you don't apply some of these deeper foundational layers. You're just going to have a rocky foundation. So you just want to get clear on that. Do you want to build an amateur business, which has a rocky foundation, or do you want a professional business? So just journal on that. If professional, what story are you really here to tell at the start of your class to connect, to build trust with people? And then remember, another intention of this course is to practice finding your voice. So I want you to post your story below in the comment section of today's post in our Foundations Facebook group. I don't want you to overthink this. I don't want you to worry if it's too long. You just want to practice, because you need to, I should say, just practice telling it. Sometimes the first time a person tells their story, it's like super long-winded. Who cares? You're going to find your flow. You're going to find your feet. You're going to find your wording. You might use my 3-step suggested process. You might just let it rip. And I'm here to tell you, let it rip. What's your story? Get it out. Oftentimes, hear me well, when people are feeling sick, anxious, having stomach problems, their business isn't going well, guess why? There's a story inside of them that needs to come out. And when we have a story to tell and share with other people, when we have something that can connect and inspire and we keep that in, it manifests as fear, anxiety, illness, stomach issues, tightness, joint pain, all of that. It sits in our cells and it manifests. And it's literally a sign from the business gods saying, girl, you feel heavy because you got too much truth and too much goodness inside of you to share. Let it rip. Let it out. So I want you to let it out in the comments below. What story are you really here to tell? How are you here to connect and inspire? That's it, guys. I cannot wait to hear your stories and what you're really here to share with the world. Have a beautiful day.